começarmos essa gameplay, já deixa aquele like no vídeo para ajudar no canal. Não esqueça de se inscrever e ativar o sininho para não perder nenhum conteúdo incrível que vem por aí. E se curtir o vídeo, compartilhe com seus amigos. Vamos juntos nessa jornada. Fique agora com essa gameplay.
Everything all right?
Yeah. There's just so much. Oh. And a letter. Encoded like the others.
Can't wait to work it out.
See if we can find a registry of Maker's sigils. This looks like some kind of evacuation plan. Doing their research before enacting asylum, I'd wager. Tables with assets listed. Looks like a tabulation of supply levels. Too new to be from before the surge. According to these dates, they stayed in Denevron for years afterwards. Just some birth records. Surprisingly detailed.
Invaluable. We'll have to make sure Lane adds them to our archive later.
Here we go. Sigils. Ah, found it. Our creator is listed here as Lucia de Crassus. 2 registered workshops, both council approved for dangerous materials. She must have had some pull before the surge. One is here in the city, and the other, let's see. I've been there. That frozen town out in Dredger's Mire. Better wear something warm.
I think it's important we run this one down, Brynn. The water clock is dripping.
There's a small compartment here, hidden in the statue, already open and empty. The record said this place was registered to our enchantress of interest, Lucia. It sure doesn't look like a saboteur or smuggler's den. On the workings of Archons by L. de Crassus. Seems promising. Dom?
Certainly topical. Probably not enough to go on by itself, though. Still significant.
That aerolith can influence the weather. Almost certainly my things are frozen over.
Malfunctioning, then?
Indisputably. The ice buildup must be causing a cyclical localized reaction.
Sure. I'll take care of it.
Good idea. Swampy environs and intense cold is bad even for Enclave parchment. Best to lower the risk.
Already warming up. Hope I didn't damage the priceless artifact too much.
Can't make an omelette, as they say.
A lot of notes here. Water damage from the cold and melt, though. Let's see. Materials. Huh. That's how you visualize a pattern. Lots of marginal notes. These have to be from Lucia. Ah, She mentions a flood in the later passages.
Seb and I will look at these together with her book then. See what we can learn in context. As Aurea says, the candle is burning on our flood problem.
Any luck with the materials we gathered from Lucia's workshops?
Yes. I'll let Seb fill you in.
We started with the book, which was...
Unsurprising. The Enclave was notoriously tight-lipped about the construction of the arcs.
The book was still useful, as it contained a number of craft-specific terms, shorthands and annotations. All critical. Referencing the book clarified the notes.
Without it, they bordered on deranged rant, especially at the end.
Sort of a window into her thinking.
We suspect Lucia spent a long time in isolation while working on these.
She covered many topics, but the most prominent was her work into the flood.
Who exactly was Lucia? It seems like she had a lot going on.
Brilliant, but disturbed. She harbored a severe hatred of Enclave leadership, bordering on obsession.
Reams of fiercely colorful text, just to say some very rude things, especially about the Eye, their leader.
She was also, at one point, one of the most respected enchanters in the Enclave. She worked on something she refused to name, but was clearly of deep significance to the Enclave itself. Called it the source of all our problems.
Sadly, she only danced around that subject, and never offered details.
We know the Hearthsiders spent years working in Denevron after the Surge. Why do we think Lucia ended up so far from the capital?
It's evident she disagreed with the leaders of the Enclave and gathered others around her who agreed. There's talk of several meetings taking place in the Maya, most likely to be away from prying eyes.
Called her group the Verdant Minds. Very planty.
I like it. It's poetic.
Her workshop was a little brisk, even for my tastes. Any idea why?
She was fascinated with Enclave technology, specifically the dismantling, disruption, and repurposing of it.
Remember our talk about the aeroliths and how they could influence the weather? When the effect is accidentally concentrated, it can be quite intense. We suspect she was experimenting with the aerolith in relation to the floods. She predicted their start.
How do those devices I found with her mark on them tie into all of this?
In her final notes, her obsession shifted from the Enclave's leadership to the miasma flood. She was determined to find a way to stop it. On one hand, she looked to the aeroliths as a mitigation. Could they repel the miasma?
In the end, her answer was no. And so she turned to disruption. We think the arcs were tests. Could she shut them down?
And if so, could she shut down something larger?
She was clearly successful at least once. Maybe twice if we count the one outside the Veil.
Indeed. And when we're doing more general questions, that is what we must talk about.
All intriguing information. But we should focus on the flood. Does she have an answer for us?
Partially. This is the design.
Her research led her to one conclusion: to stop the floods.
This confirms our theory from earlier. She's talking about the barrier established by Asylum.
Her design is detailed and specific. The device it would create inverts the flow of magic in enchanted objects, disrupting them for a time.
We think the devices we found on the Arks were prototypes, small experiments to determine efficacy and duration.
So what's the catch? If the floods are still happening, clearly she didn't build one.
Lucia's thimble, as she calls it, requires some highly specialized components. It has to withstand considerable magical flow, far more than what's produced by an arc.
It's like how mass scales exponentially. Just because you can build a scale model of an aqueduct doesn't mean the real thing can support its own weight.
If, and it is a very big if, we could find those components, we could construct Lucia's thimble. We have the expertise.
We'll find them. It's just a matter of time.
I only hope we have enough.
The other thing we'll need is a source of magical flame. Sola's mantle won't be enough by itself.
I can handle that part easily. Okay, so we have clear next steps. Just one more thing.
The flood. Our best guess, at any rate. There's no sign of her.
So, the letter. I'm prepared for bad news.
How did you know?
They were collecting supplies for other survivors. We know someone is out there. The supplies never made it to them. That, and the tear stains.
Is that what that was? Yes, well, there's a lot to cover. We have the cache itself and our scrounging siblings. We should at least give you the high-level details on both. Where do you want to start?
What did the final note say?
Yes, right. It was a farewell. One sibling disappeared. The runner.
I thought the runner of the pair was the one we found.
So did we. But this last message was a farewell to his sister. Apparently the Grumpole...
Really?
I know. But apparently their boss had been ordered to stop wasting resources on the search. And so our hauler left this farewell, hoping his sister might find it on the off chance she was alive. He was going to remove all their other messages so their plan wouldn't be found out. We postulate he was on his way to do that when
the flood caught him.
These people, however many are left, they might really need our help. They're still organized and have a command structure, but it sounds dysfunctional.
Is there anything we could do you think?
Sadly, no. But their story will live on in our chronicle.
Did we confirm they weren't actually stealing from the Enclave?
The letter seems genuine. I think their plan was to bring in a big haul. It says a lot about the Hearthsiders that our siblings thought this would clear any suspicion.
How so?
The cloud of suspicion tells us they were in dire times, tightening the screws on their own people. But bring in a big load and we trust you. Doesn't that sound a little like a bribe?
So you think our runners were dirty?
No. I think the system's dirty, and they're just stuck working through it.
I'm not going to say the name, but do we have any sense of who was giving their orders?
The Enclave's leader was called the Eye, a first of firsts, after a fashion. Elected from the masters of each craft, the High Smith, High Enchanter, and so on. Unfortunately, we don't have any details about their direct superior. I will spare you the name.
Let's move on to something else.
Of course.
Talk to me about the supplies.
They did astonishing work. If I weren't sure they're both gone, I'd hire them. Indeed, a robust collection, including several enchanted objects we barely recognize. They had a keen eye for things that could decay and took care to preserve them.
You two sound giddy.
If there's one thing Lane and I are passionate about, it's preservation of rare objects.
Were there any hints of more of these?
As far as we can tell, this was it. Their motherlode. It's impressive one runner could gather this much, frankly.
Have you been working your magic, Casmin?
Obviously. Thank you for bringing everything back so carefully.
Anything of note?
Yes, but let's save that until we've done the other questions.
Mysterious. That's enough about the cache.
Sure.
So, where do we go from here?
Good news. We compared notes with Dalm. We found parts that will let us complete Lucia's thimble from those schematics you decoded. It has been a busy time. Solo will handle the assembly, of course. I suppose the only other thing to say is, good job, Brynn. Indeed. we have made progress in unraveling the shape of what the post-Surge society looks like in the Enclave. Further, these documents are invaluable to the historical record. And maybe you put a couple souls to rest. Not to be sentimental.
All right. Let's go over everything we know so far.
We know that, for a time after the Surge, civilians continued to live in Tenebron until they were forced to evacuate the city. We're still not sure the cause.
Wherever the Hearthsiders went, they're still actively sending scouting groups to scavenge for supplies. From the uniform, the creeper who was watching Brynn sleep belongs to one of these groups. We also know that a defensive procedure codenamed Asylum sealed access to the Enclave underground. This was done using a barrier almost exactly like the Veil.
Lucia, an ex-High Enchantress, opposed Asylum and began working on ways to sabotage it.
Her research forecasted that the barrier would cause the Enclave to flood with miasma. The very same flood that seems to have killed Lucia before she was able to finish her thimble.
But we have her design. It could disrupt Asylum's barrier.
So Lucia's thimble is the key to our survival.
It's less a key and more like a magical battering ram.
Whatever works.
What is it, Lane?
It's just... I've pored over all the documents we've compiled, and a concrete link between the evacuation plan and the underground is nowhere to be found. I can't shake the feeling we're missing something.
The Enclave destroyed a lot of information from their documents. Could that be why you can't find a link between Asylum and the evacuation?
I considered that. The Enclave may have hidden their location from Lucia.
Being a weaver isn't about being certain all the time. It's about taking calculated risks to carve a path forward. And regardless of the Hearthsider's location, disrupting the barrier is the only option to stop the flood.
You're right. I just hope that if we did miss something, it doesn't come back to bite us.
Even if it does, we will handle it.
That settles it. Brynn, it's time to use the thimble.
Zola, Lane, what are you reading?
A book found this. It's a pastoral, though a rare post. Surge work that incorporates light references to magic.
Thank you for your help with that, Brynn. You've a deft hand for flame magic. You can wear Sev's apprentice hat for one day. Also, Lucia knew what she was doing. This thimble was clearly designed to pair seamlessly with Enclave constructions.
Must be her experience as a high enchantress at work.
Based on Lucia's notes and what we discovered at the Bastion, this was custom designed to disrupt Asylum's barrier.
If it can stop the flood, we need to use it soon.
Agreed. We don't know how much time we have left. That console that looks like our scry should be the controls for the barrier. The thimble was built to interface with it.
Time to disrupt Asylum. Great timing. I owe you one.
You need to come with me. All of you.
We mustn't cause a panic.
Sure. It's not like we had a dire supplies shortage on our hands before this happened.
What do I tell the High Enchanter? The Guild will want...
Enough. We won't discuss this further. Not in front of our guests. Identify yourselves.
Aurea Harpenay, or Silverbeak, as I'm known among Weaver circles. This is my band, and beside me is our acting point.
Brynn. And you are?
Khan Stunild, Eye of the Enclave. My colleagues are the Spindle and the Axle, representatives of the Enchanting and Crafting Guilds. Who sent you?
Sent us?
Taza? Renland? Udea? The Enclave is the envy of the Maida for its magical prowess. Clearly one of those nations has finally grown a spine and decided to take it for themselves in our moment of weakness.
Moment.
No one sent us. We came here by accident.
What kind of fool do you take me for? You expect me to believe that you bypassed our veil, infiltrated our loom gates, and breached asylum without a national power backing you?
When you put it that way.
This is a misunderstanding. We're weavers, like you. There was a brief opportunity to enter the Enclave for the first time in decades, and we took it. Everything we've done since we arrived has been to uncover what happened here after the Surge. And to find you.
If that is true, have you really no inkling of the trouble you've caused?
No.
Your reckless conduct has unleashed an enemy that nearly destroyed us 27 years ago.
The Surgeborn. They first appeared a little over a decade after the Veil went up.
Where did they come from?
No one knows. But they arrived in the Underworks before making their way to the surface.
Where they left a trail of destruction in their wake and wreaked havoc on the Enclave.
Causing casualties to rise.
And so I called for a retreat here, saving countless lives. We sealed the Surgeborn in the Underworks for good. Until now.
We've been here a little while now. Don't you think all of this could have been avoided if you'd properly said hello?
She's right.
This is hardly our fault.
Look, Surgeborn or not, we had no choice but to remove the barrier. Though, I suppose we owe you thanks for warning us about the floods.
Who warned you?
You did.
Did we? I'll deal with you later.
While we can agree Arakin breached no-contact protocol, it has proven to be the right decision. The floods were growing worse, and now they have stopped. Even if fixing them has introduced a new problem.
One my band would be more than happy to help you solve.
Ha! Work together!
Sorry to interrupt, but you mentioned your last name earlier. Any relation to Shireen Harpenay?
She was my mother. You know who she is?
Of course! I mean, before my time, obviously. But she's still renowned in the Enchanting Guild. Her work is remarkable. There's a statue of her in Denevron, you know?
Oh. I can't believe she didn't mention that.
There is so much I'd love to ask you, but for now, Aurea comes from a long bloodline of outstanding and renowned weavers. Shouldn't that buy her band some grace?
All right. Your presence in the outskirts will be tolerated. Nothing more.
What about the Surgeborn?
What about them?
Shouldn't we work together to deal with them?
We could use the help.
The Surgeborn are a problem for anyone in the outskirts, not us. Cassidon's Hold is a fortress.
The scouts do head into the outskirts to scavenge for supplies.
We'll take our own precautions. Speaking of, we have pressing matters to attend to.
But...
Enough! My word is final.
Brynn, the one that led us here is clearly the one that warned us. Try to talk to him before we leave. Maybe he's willing to work with us.
Will do.
many scouts will I need to throw at Smokes before this is all over?
Hey, Arakim, was it?
Oh, just call me Arik.
Well, Arik, I never got a chance to thank you. You know, for grabbing me before I fell to my death.
I think you had it. Besides, I couldn't let you plummet into a chasm. The Eye is pretty peeved with me, but hey, that's just a bonus.
You and the Eye don't seem to get along very well.
What gave it away? The mutual contempt. The Eye doesn't like anyone who shows initiative or challenges him. Unfortunately, those are my main qualities. And I suspect he perceives them in you, too.
Yeah, I didn't get the impression he's my biggest fan. Will you be in trouble for saving us?
I'd worry if he ever decided to get off his throne and do something about it. But he finds that throne very comfortable.
So, are you glad we're here?
I'm thrilled you're here.
I have to say, I'm surprised.
Oh, yeah. Sorry for all that cloak and dagger stuff earlier. Khan Stanild had me on strict orders not to make contact with your Weaver band. But it was the right call. From what I just saw, your presence here is having an impact.
How so?
Notice how the Axle took my side against the Eye earlier. That never happens. And the Spindle is as quiet as a mouse most of the time, but not today.
Aha. So these are big changes.
It might not sound like much, but they're excited you're here. Stanild can tell too. That's why he backed down so easily. And that's why I'm glad you're here.
So you're not upset that I breached Asylum, like your colleagues?
I've been pushing to do something about the Surgeborn for years now. Setting them free wasn't great, but sealing them in the underworks indefinitely was never a good solution. Frankly, I think Khan Stanild is just annoyed you undid his one claim to fame. I guarantee he has no plans to do anything about the Surgeborn now that they're free.
You don't think he sees them as a threat?
He's got his head in the sand about a lot of things.
You seem awfully trusting of us, considering the terrible first impression we've made.
I was spying on you the first time we met, so let's call it even.
Sure. Maybe you know everything already then, but have you got any questions for me?
Just one. Why are you here?
Decades of war across the Maida followed after the Surge. Magic and Weavers were blamed for all of it. Without the Enclave as a stabilizing force, it's as if the world outside has splintered into factions, divided by chaos and fear. Not to mention the lands surrounding the Veil are completely shrouded in tangles. I'm here to bring down the Veil. and play a small part in restoring the Maida Basin to what it was before the surge.
Wow. That's a big picture vision if I ever heard one. If that's truly what you want, then dealing with the Surgeborn is the first step. Ever since the Veil went up, our people have been in crisis. They've spent so long in it, they're afraid to do what it takes to get out. It doesn't help that some have benefited off that same crisis.
Who?
Who always benefits? The very top. Our leaders are too preoccupied with their own concerns to form a unified front against the Surgeborn.
Such as?
The Spindle is obsessed with getting the Arcs functional again. She believes that will help us regain control. And the Axle is too stressed about our supply shortage right now. But, if their concerns were handled, they could pressure the Eye to finally address the Surgeborn.
That sounds like an opportunity. And are you a representative yourself? Do you...
Representative, yes. Sway? No. I represent the Scouts, meaning I'm at the meetings, but I don't have the title to back me up. The Scouts were once points like you, but our role has changed since the Veil went up. We were effectively drafted into scavenging for food and supplies. It made sense following the surge, but it's been years. Recently, we've even been separated from Cassidan's hold and the remaining civilians. Anyway, it's the guild leaders who will need to pressure Khan Stanild into dealing with the Surgeborn. Which is what needs to happen before we can even think about tackling the Veil.
Sounds like I've got some palms to grease.
Yuck. But yes, I'll come by your camp later. We'll be able to speak more freely there.
What is that about?
The Eye isn't one for idle chit-chat. That's worth watching.
Talk to you back at our camp.
You got it.
Sev, you all right?
No. I mean, yes. I'm fine.
You sure?
Brynn, the rest of us are heading out. See you back at camp.
I got to go.
I am simply telling you, as the foremost leader of the Enclave, that I don't want you getting distracted.
Can you clarify what you mean by that?
You know exactly what I mean. Eyes down, know your place. Focus on your own problems. Organize your little craftspeople. Keep the wheels of civilized society greased. And don't dare to presume you know better than me.
If you have a problem with my performance, you are welcome to gather feedback from the people who elected me. They may have a clearer understanding of what I bring to the table.
We'll continue this conversation later.
Khan Arteme. Allow me to formally introduce you to Brynn, the Weaver Band's point.
You're the Axle, right? Arakim says you're a good person to know.
I am. My given name is Haroon, as Arakim said, but you may refer to me as Khan Arteme. It's a pleasure to make your acquaintance, despite the circumstances. And I wish they were better circumstances. The new Surgeborn threat requires us to realign our priorities. Some are a little slower on that than others.
If there's anything we can do to move things along, I'm at your disposal.
What about the supply shortage? I've seen her in combat. She's better than any of us.
What's her help look like? I'd prefer if she could avoid unleashing another apocalypse on us.
We didn't bring a lot with us, but if there's anything we can provide to you, our quartermaster, Casmin, will be happy to help. A decade working the maiden shipping lanes turned her hard as can't steel.
She sounds lovely. But unfortunately, we're supplying 10,000 people, not 7 weavers and their pack beast. And I doubt you'd have enough on your caravan to make much of a difference. Fortunately, there's a silver lining to your Surgeborn mess that could solve the problem.
Count me in.
Right. With the Surgeborn unleashed, we're anticipating casualties and damage to our facilities. However, there's a restricted area in the underworks that we lost access to decades ago when the Eye sealed it. An arcane laboratory where the Enclave conducted its enchantment research, among other projects. Inside the Institute lies a significant supply cache. Its contents will be enough to keep us going, for the time being. If the notes the previous Axel left me are accurate, though, there's an additional complication.
Of course.
The Surgeborn secure territory by building structures, akin to insect hives. The Institute is likely overrun with them, and has been for 20-odd years.
So, the Surgeborn are a long-standing threat to the Enclave.
I wish I were old enough to remember what it was like to live without the fear of the Surgeborn. As a child, I sat awake every night worrying about them. They were terrifying. Knowing what I know now, I should have been even more scared.
I'm sorry you went through that. It must have been horrible.
Thank you.
All the more reason to actually do something about the problem, instead of spending our lives cowering behind the walls of our glorious fortress.
You'll hear no disagreement from me, now that the game board has been upended.
Sounds like I need to clear any Surgeborn hives from the Institute, then.
That'll thin them out enough that my scouts will be able to access the supply cache without much trouble.
Now that Asylum is lifted, we should be able to access the loom gates in the Institute again. I'm going to trust you with this key swatch. It's been gathering dust for over 25 years.
Only the Eye would let such a crucial resource sit there for that long.
Yes. If we're clear on everything, I'll get back to work. My list of obligations grows by the minute. Someone has to keep this goddamn fortress running.
Excuse me, but Arakim mentioned you're the Spindle, a leading representative for the High Arcanists.
Oh, yes, that's correct.
We wanted to formally introduce ourselves. I'm Aurea, as you know. This is Dam, our enchanter, and Brynn, our acting point.
We didn't catch your name earlier. Khan?
Just call me Isla. Is there something I can help you with?
We'd actually like to help you. Apparently you want to restore the arcs.
Shh! Not so loud. Sorry, that sounds wonderful, but the Eye won't be happy about us collaborating.
Pooling resources and sharing knowledge is hardly a bad thing. Why would the Eye be upset about us trying to help you?
It's complicated. Anyway, I do want to fix the arcs. More than anything. I just need you to be quiet about it.
Okay. We'll try, but forgive us if our excitement bubbles over and we forget.
It's Dam. He's the one that might forget.
We know that the arcs began malfunctioning after the surge. A select few were even sabotaged. Any idea on what caused the other malfunctions?
Some theories, but nothing solid. Anyone who knew how to create arcs, let alone fix them, died before I was born. I've tinkered with an inactive arc that's lying near the Grand Gate, but it would make a world of difference if I could study a resonance that was freshly harvested from a great arc's pattern.
Consider it done.
Brynn's got you covered. She has a knack for harvesting great archons.
You'll have it in no time.
If you're sure, I certainly would appreciate it. With discretion.
Right.
We've been talking a while. You'd better go.
So,
Me?
the one causing trouble, the one poking into corners, the one who hasn't the good sense to leave well enough alone.
Had you allowed Arakim to reach out to us sooner, this could have been avoided.
Arakim has a proven record of poor judgment on matters of protocol. I will not be lectured by the person who put us all at risk on how best to handle our security. But I'm being impolite. Let us start afresh, shall we? Please, share what you hope to accomplish by loitering around the hold.
Weavers outside the Veil have been hoping the Enclave would be a bastion of lost arts. And it's clear that's not the case. Still, there is history and expertise to be found here. Even if it takes our band ages to piece it together, it's worth restoring.
I shudder to think we have disappointed the cart pullers out there selling our collective skills like mercenaries. Perhaps they could write us a sternly worded letter. Still, your point is well made. Much was lost in the surge, and very little has been recovered. Though I look forward to seeing what knowledge outsiders can recover that the Enclave's leading enchanters cannot.
Like it or not, I'm here to help.
The Enclave stands on a blade's edge. Stretch our resources too thin on risky ventures, and we face collapse. Certain elements of our population call for action, for bold purpose. And I ask you, what purpose is bolder than survival?
Well,
purely rhetorical. We must survive, and we must make considered, careful moves if we are to do so. There is no sacrifice too great towards that goal. You, at least, understand the precarity of our situation. Now understand the necessity of our caution.
I do, but...
Thank you for your time. You may go.
But...
You may go.
Hey.
Yes. There's something I should have told you. so I'll just come out and say it. I was born in the Enclave.
How is that possible?
Oh, luck or tragedy, depending on your perspective. Before I was born, my mother and father lived here happily for several years. But they decided it would be better if my mother raised me with my grandmother and great aunts for the first few months of my life. So she left with me when I was just a hatchling, with every intention to return.
But the surge happened.
The life I should have had was lost for good. Because of all this, I never knew my father. I don't even know his name.
Is it common for Oberon hatchlings to be raised apart from their fathers?
No, but it is common for extended family to be involved in the raising of children. As you know, I come from a long line of weavers, many of whom traveled in caravans their entire lives. It was apparently quite a shock when my mother fell for a Hearthsider.
So your parents were looking for a compromise when it came to raising you?
Exactly. And I wouldn't trade my childhood on the road. My great-aunts and my grandmother made me who I am, after all.
Still, you missed out on your father. It's...
I suppose.
Isn't it a little strange your mother never told you his name?
She was separated from him so suddenly. She had no chance to say goodbye. My mother is a strong woman, but whenever I asked about him as a child, she could only manage a few words before her face would crumble. She found it too painful to discuss, and I never wanted to pry.
But now?
I can't help but wish I knew who he was.
Does your family have something to do with your attachment to the Enclave?
Being here has meant a lot in some ways, and in others, it's very different from what I expected. Meeting the Hearthsiders was a lifelong dream, but the circumstances of our encounter, not what I'd envisioned.
Knowing now that this is your birthplace, I can see why that would be disheartening.
This was meant to be my home, after all.
This is definitely a twist.
I am sorry for that. You need to be able to trust me.
So why hide it?
Talking about difficult and private matters is not my strong suit. And frankly, I rarely see the point in dwelling on the past.
I guess you and your mother have that in common.
Ha. You might be right.
So, we're going to find out who your father was.
You would... help me?
Of course. Maybe Lane would have some ideas on where to start.
Actually, I had an idea myself. The spindle mentioned a statue of my mother. It's clear the Enclave commemorated their champions. I can't shake this feeling my father is among them.
You think there's a statue of your father?
I know it sounds strange, but the handful of times that my mother spoke of him, she described him as this great hero. Since she was one herself, is it so crazy to think she might have meant that literally?
Maybe not. I can scope out the statues in Upper Denevron for a resemblance, if that's what you want.
Good. And thank you.
Brynn, I'm glad you're here. I need to talk to you.
What's going on? You look pretty tired.
Yeah, I'm fine. It's just... about those 90 Drake scales. I know Arya said we don't need them, but... she just doesn't understand. It's dangerous out here, you know? Especially now that these Surgeborn are loose. We need to be prepared for anything. It's just gnawing in the back of my head. Do you think you could do it?
You haven't told me why we need them, or better yet, why we need 90.
We want the best gear and weapons, don't we?
So Sola asked for these?
Not exactly. They have other uses too.
Seriously, when's the last time you slept?
Kashar don't need as much sleep as Ashar or Casil.
But you need some sleep.
It's been a while, maybe 10 days, or a week. I'm fine.
I'm guessing Aurea doesn't know you want me to go drake hunting. Do you really think it's a good idea for us to go behind her back?
It looks bad, but she just doesn't see what I'm seeing.
To be honest, I'm not sure I see it either.
Please, just trust me.
Kaz, you need to tell me what's really going on here. I want to help, but the drake scales? The Weaver Band is okay. More than okay. We're in the best shape we've been in since we entered the Enclave, now that we've made contact with the Heartsiders. Besides, the caravan is looking pretty full. It's not making sense.
You think I'm insane?
No, of course not.
Era's breath. I shouldn't have brought this up. Ugh. But you just don't understand. Everyone could die if I don't... It would be my fault.
Whatever this is, please just tell me what's going on.
No. I shouldn't have burdened you. Sorry, just go.
But Kaz...
I can't talk about this anymore.
Casmin is not okay. And I don't think bringing her more stuff is the answer. I'd better talk to Aurea. Hey, Aurea. About Casmin.
I know. I'm worried too. So is the rest of the band. Let's talk at the archive, privately. I'll join you and Lane in a moment.
All right.
And then, Sev and I realized we might be able to repurpose the carapace for more than just loom gates.
Uh-huh.
Purely theoretical right now, but I'm contemplating tangle-resistant gear, or even a protective layer around the caravan.
Dom, I'm a little busy trying to look over these Tarmakine schematics again. Do you mind coming back later?
Oh, okay. You're right. We can discuss theoretical magic anytime. I'll...
Oh. Hey, Brynn.
Everything all right? Things between you and Dom seem off.
Yeah, a bit. I'm not sure he understands what my work on the Tarmakine smithing techniques means to me.
Have you told him how you're feeling?
It feels like he's so wrapped up in his own discoveries that he's not hearing me.
He is easily distracted, but maybe you should try again. If there's one thing I know about Dom, it's that he loves you. He must care about your feelings.
Then why isn't he asking about them? Sorry, this isn't on you. I'm just frustrated. I need to do more than just tell him what Tarmakine means to me.
How so?
I need to show him. By investigating Tarmakine practices, maybe I can make some headway on restoring these techniques. Then...
Hey, I'm always down to investigate lost knowledge, especially in the name of love.
You'll help me?
Of course.
Amazing. I'll ask the Axel if she knows anything about Tarmakine smithing in the Enclave.
Great idea. I'll meet you at Cassidon's Hold. So, what were you speaking to the Eye about?
Nothing. I don't want to talk about it.
I didn't mean to pry. I just wanted to make sure you're okay.
You want to know if I'm okay?
Yes?
Then how come no one is at all concerned with the fact we can't leave? This isn't my life. Traveling with the Weaver Band was supposed to be temporary. For me, at least. There are things I should get back to in Taza. And it's increasingly clear no one has any idea when I will. If ever. So no, I'm not okay.
I'm so sorry. I had no idea you were feeling this way. You're right.
I am?
The truth is, we don't know how or when we're getting out of here. But if you want to leave, we should have made that more of a priority. Or at least made you feel more heard. So we'll work on it. Promise.
Really? What's the catch?
No catch. Apprentice or full-time weaver, what's important to you is important to all of us.
I don't know what to say. But thanks.
How are you settling in, Eric? Things going well?
Good. Yeah, they're fine.
Just good?
No, not really. Something's going on at the hold, and it's making the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. The Eye publicly scorched you for opening up Asylum, and yet I've heard him telling the Spindle that this could be a good thing. Meanwhile, the runners are stretched paper thin keeping supplies moving. Which, of course, leaves my people no time to deal with actual threats.
Sounds like you could use some help. What's the problem?
Really? Dancing winds, where to start? No, wait, I know. The Spitfires. A particularly aggressive group seems set on spreading through Denevron. In particular, they're building nests in some areas I was hoping to use as training grounds, but we had to pull out due to the risk.
Would the areas be safe if I took care of the nests?
Yes, though the nests are very durable. They will turn brittle if you get them cold enough.
Consider it done. Anything else?
Maybe an odd request. Could you ask Oreo if I could power the scry while you're tackling them?
Why not ask her yourself?
I feel like I have a lot to learn from Oreo and how she works with you. And it's strangely intimidating to admit that to her directly.
She is a force of nature. I get it. I'll ask.
When's the last time anyone saw her sleep?
It's been... It might sound callous, but I'm a little disappointed in the Hearthsiders.
They're in worse shape than any of us expected.
They've done so little to repair the wonders that surround them. How can a society once renowned for its genius become so far removed from their own innovations? It makes me question if they were ever as great as we all believe they were, or if it was just...
some myth to keep Weavers going after the Surge.
Exactly. Something for us to believe in, whether or not it was true.
The Hearthsiders are in shambles. But who wouldn't be after what they've been through? I still believe in the dream of the Enclave. If it takes us to restore it, I'm up for that challenge.
You're right. If it really was that at one time, it can become that again. I'm just not sure what to think anymore.
It's safe to say Casmin hasn't been acting like herself. She's always been tightly wound, but this is something else.
Brynn, she seems more open with you than most. Can you describe in detail what's abnormal about her behavior?
She's begging me for more supplies, even though the caravan is chock full.
Not that we could tell, because she's covered it up.
More than that, she just seems distressed. She's always talking about worst-case scenarios, and lately it's like she's convinced we're all going to die.
I have heard rumors of abnormal behavior developing in Kashar that could be linked to this.
What kind of rumors?
In polytheistic beliefs that are pervasive in the southern part of the Maida, there is an affliction known as Ira's Plague. The sufferer is haunted by twisted visions of death and pain. The goddess of justice, Ira, won't allow the sufferer inner peace until they repent through scrupulosity.
Scrupulosity? What is that exactly?
Oh, my apologies. I forget most people don't follow UD in eschatological study. Scrupulosity can be best described as a series of repetitive acts that one is compelled to do. For example, if Casmin is plagued by relentless images of our band dying from exposure,
she might send our point out over and over again to retrieve supplies.
Yes, in order to dispel the horrific visions.
Are you seriously suggesting Casmin is, what, possessed?
Of course not. I'm confident that this is merely a stigmatized phenomenon that could not be explained through facts or science. So the populace explained it through religious folly instead.
Any ideas what facts could explain it?
Not yet.
I didn't realize Casmin was spiritual. Is she really trying to hide these visions from us?
Though not devout herself, Casmin grew up with a strict Ashar mother.
You're right, she did.
It's possible Casmin's affliction was a point of shame or contention between them. Perhaps she fears rejection if she shares her experience with us.
Kashar, what does Ira's plague have to do with them?
While most see Kashar as a celebrated merging of the two cultures, some fringe sects disagree. They believe the wider lineage simply leads to more ancestral sin that must be atoned. And thus, only Kashar can be afflicted.
Really? Where do you land?
The concept of impure lineage is clearly hogwash. But I suspect the affliction could somehow correlate to the Kashar's unique physiology.
All right. Casmin is suffering. We need to do something about it.
And preemptively? No exorcisms?
As I said, this is likely nothing more than a condition that has been stigmatized by religion. A scientific explanation must exist, and thankfully, we are in the heart of progressive thinking.
You think the Enclave could have done research on this?
Makes sense. Where should I start looking?
The steps in the upper city is where I'd start. Between the main building of the spire and the atrium used to stand a school for alchemists. From your explorations, the surge hit that area pretty hard, but some of the building may still be standing.
Great. What am I looking for?
Maybe the name of someone who suffered like Casmin, or a healer who treated the condition. If you find someone like that, you'll want to search the areas of the city where they spent time. Ira's plague is wildly misunderstood across the Maida. If we could find a treatment, it could help more than Casmin.
You're right. I'll start with the steps, then expand my search.
Brynn, I have to say, I'm a little concerned about you.
Me? Why's that?
I don't think you know what you're getting yourself into with the Enclave Council. You're not just helping them, you're diving headfirst into their political affairs.
Lane, if I can fight an Archon 10 times my size, I can handle a little bureaucracy.
That's exactly my point. I was raised in the midst of political schemes and intrigue. There's always something unsaid or underhanded at play beneath the surface. Just be careful. That's all.
Hi, Aurea. I am here on behalf of Arakim.
That's weirdly formal. Everything all right?
He finds you intimidating. Personally, I don't see it, but I thought I'd be extra polite for his sake.
He does. Good. What does he want?
He's wondering if he could power the scry while I run an errand for him. He's hoping you'll give him tips.
Happily. But feel free to tell him I was a bit scary, to keep him on his toes.
Good news. It was tough going, but I managed to convince Madame Silverbeak to take you under her wing.
Madame Silverbeak. Wins. I'll wear my good socks. I've coordinated lots of operations from Cassidy's hold, but I never had much formal training. More self-taught. A chance to learn from someone with decades of experience is an incredible opportunity. I'll be there with you then, when you get close to the nests. They're in the Bastion's yard and Envoy's Landing in Upper Denevron.
resonance from one of these massive animals.
This statue does depict an Oberon, but it's impossible to tell who it is.
Maybe there's another statue that isn't damaged.
I'll keep looking around the city. Not much of this building left, but looks like it's my lucky day. This tome's titled Disordered Thinking and Mental Anguish. Looks thick. An insert says, herbalist in the market found success treating a variety of patients suffering from these types of afflictions. Better search the market next. Things still good with our Spitfire problem?
All handled. You did great out there. But now we have another problem. Madame Silverbeak. Seriously? I said it while you were out there, and the look she gave me.
Oh no, you didn't!
Oh, yeah, I did. And I shall never again. But well... But it was quite the experience. Your scry is not at all what I'm used to. It's... better. More vibrant. Anyway, sincerely, thank you for your help. If I need more, I'll know to just ask this time.
Se você gostou dessa gameplay, não se esqueça de deixar o seu like para dar aquela força, se inscrever no canal se ainda não fez isso e ativar o sininho para não perder as próximas gameplays. A sua participação é super importante e me motiva a continuar trazendo mais conteúdo de qualidade para vocês. E aí, o que acharam dessa parte do jogo? Deixem nos comentários suas opiniões, dicas ou até mesmo sugestões do que gostariam de ver nos próximos vídeos. Muito obrigado por assistir e até o próximo episódio.